Welcome back to another episode of In the Mirror. Today we're going to be talking about getting older. Now, I will say, getting older has never really scared me. In fact, for most of my life, I think I've always imagined my life aging. I'm not someone who look backwards, if that makes any sense. But for whatever reason, in the last couple weeks, potentially the last couple months, perhaps in the last couple days while I've been sick eating ginger candy, which I still have today here with me. So if I stop to eat more of this mid-episode, you know why. But for whatever reason, this particular birthday in general has scared me more than any other birthday in the past. I have never been the kind of person to really celebrate my big day. I think part of the reason is because I'm a Leo and I celebrate every other part of the year, but I've just never been one to celebrate another day in the year. Now, that's not to say that birthdays aren't a momentous occasion and it's an excuse for you to hang out with your friends and family and get dinner and go to a party, go out to the club, perhaps see a magic show. But I'm also a big proponent of treating every single day like it's your last anyways. And because of that, I think I've just never put that much emphasis on the big birthday. Now, the funny part about that is this year feels really, really different to me. And part of me wants to tell you that I don't know why this year feels different. Perhaps it's because I moved from California back home, potentially because I've been trying to prioritize spending more of my life outside of just work in the last couple of months. But I really think that the reason that I feel the way I do this year is for one simple reason. The number 25. Growing up, I had a lot of friends who were older than me. In fact, most of my friends in high school, in college, even in work, generally are older than me. I think naturally speaking, I attract an older crowd. And I often would hear my friends saying, and I heard this a lot out of my roommate in California. Yes, I'm throwing shade at you, Ryan. Don't hate me. I used to hear, I'm too old. I don't have enough time. I can't do that anymore. And to be honest, I used to never get it. And in some ways, I still don't. Because I do think that even in your 30s, even in your late 30s, even in your 40s, you are really young and you just don't realize it yet. But that's also not to say that other priorities catch up in your life, especially if you value other things, such as starting a family or spending time with your loved ones. I do think that time gets the best of all of us. And as I used to critique all of my friends and shit on them for having this mindset, I told myself, dare I say, vowed a promise to myself, that I would never put myself in that mindset. Because I do think that once you start telling yourself that you're too old for anything, at that point you're too old. The day you decide that you don't have time to build another business, date anyone new, get to know people on a deeper level, you don't have time to whatever the case may be. I think the second you convince yourself of that, you've made up your mind and you've decided your fate. And I think the only way to avoid putting yourself in that position is to be a little bit delusional about saying, I'm still young. And I say delusion, but the truth is it's not really delusion. Because even at 20, even at 30, and I would even make the argument at 40, you're way younger than you even imagine. This is simple math. If you took someone who is 80 and looked at the first 20 years of their life, that is only 1/4 of the book. You are quite literally in season 1 of How I Met Your Mother, when Robin and Ted first decide to get together and Lily and Marshall break up at the end of the season. That's quite literally where you're at. You are so early on in the series of a film. That's not to say you know when it ends or how it will end, but you are early in your story. But yes, I go on this long tangent to say I am turning 25 in a couple days, and I finally get it. That's right. Intimidation has caught up with me. It gets the best of all of us. For the first time in my life, I have feared getting older. Now, I wish I could tell you specifically. What about the number 25 scares me so much? I think with anything else, there's something about numbers, and specific numbers, that just rub you the wrong way. Now, I probably wouldn't even feel this at my 31st birthday, let alone my 16th birthday. But something about the number 25 specifically, you start thinking, I am just as close to 50 as I am to my mother's womb. And that's a little mind-boggling to me, just a tad. Like I could be in fetus form or on the brink of grandpa age. Oh God. Now before we do a deep dive into getting older and me turning 25, I want to backtrack a little bit because I did want to brainstorm some ways I feel I could spend my 25th birthday. Now, I've seen a lot of people do the 30s birthday party where they pretty much deck out their funeral of their 20s, probably wear all black. I think somewhere I saw Ludwig threw a party and they did a roast, losing his adolescence. I need to come up with a creative solution like that for 25. Now, I haven't really decided what that looks like yet, but I figured since we're in quarter life crisis mode, we might as well have some fun with it. So help me brainstorm. Give me some ideas. Here are the couple options that immediately came to my head, okay? Now, since I haven't reached funeral birthday party age just yet, I figured we could still enjoy 25 by doing responsible adult things with other irresponsible actions. Because that's really what it is, right? You're at this midlife cusp between my frontal lobe just getting developed and you sitting in your bedroom wondering if stretching really is a necessity. And let me tell you, I think I'll choose to find that out for myself in about 5 years. Now, here's what I was thinking. Going on a responsible, week-long adult trip, but then being irresponsible enough to choose the flight the night before. You see what I'm saying? You mix responsibility with, fuck it, I'm just living my life in the present. I also thought, here's a good one. Old enough to spend money on food, but still young enough that you won't feel the effects of diabetes until 5 years later. Hear me out. Why not have a crazy mukbang of all your favorite foods? We're talking kimchi, udon, sushi, steak, mashed potatoes, all the French fries in the world. What else is my favorite food? Cheese. I haven't thought about this question in so long. I don't know what my favorite foods are. Probably need to put on that mythical kitchen show where they eat everyone's like last meals and get some ideas because I really don't know what my last meal would be. But basically treat it like that. Because let's be real, when you turn 30, when you turn 40, you won't have the appetite to eat your favorite meals anymore anyways, because you're going to be too concerned about feeling so bloated and not being able to eat after like 8 p.m. So while you're still young enough to eat the munchies at like 2 a.m., 1 a.m., might as well get them in your system. See, I'm really trying to look at this 25 adventure as a good thing. Like we're still young enough to continuously fuck up. And that's really my point in bringing all this up, right? Is there are phases in your 20s. Phase 1 I call dumb, broke, and exciting. And that's between like 20 and 22. I remember when I first turned 21 a couple years ago, and what a time that was for me. Because a month before that, I got incredibly injured and shattered my orbital bone. Now, I don't want to go into depth about this story for the 500th time because I've told so many people before. But as a TLDR, which I still don't know what TLDR stands for, I got kicked in my eye, straight into the socket, and spectators around me said it fit like a jigsaw puzzle. It was July 3rd and I fractured several different parts around my eye. I remember being heavily concussed that night and going into the ER and wanting to throw up so bad and thinking, well, this puts a wrench in my 21st plans. Because how am I going to drink and have fun with my friends when I am sitting here in the hospital on July 3rd while I hear fireworks blow up in my ears? I'm not going to even survive this night. I mean, in that moment, I really started to get what people meant by PTSD. Like, I can only imagine how soldiers and war veterans feel after experiencing the battlefield. because one night in the ER, hearing fireworks was enough to do me damage after pretty much blowing my brains out. Now, knowing that for my 21st, I still found a way to celebrate. That's right, I was scheduled for surgery about a month later, and the really interesting part about that whole turnout of events is I decided, without my surgeon's permission, to book a flight to Cancun. Now, I didn't think it would be that much of a problem because, people go on flights all the time, and I figured we're only going to be in the air for about 2 hours. Like, that's not too bad. What I forgot about is the fact that pressure in the air does exist. So I remember texting my surgeon then and there after I booked the flight, like a week before. Very spontaneous, last minute decision with my film friends. I texted my surgeon and asked, hey, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad of an idea is it to fly with a shattered orbital bone? Because I know you mentioned that it can heal on its own, and if it heals improperly, then your eye might get stuck. And I'm still in the phase of my eye that at this point, I lack mobility, and it still hurts, but at least it opens. So in my opinion, I'm partially healed. I can't work right now. I'm not going to get booked on film sets because I can't be physically active. So might as well spend this time to be on vacation mode. So my surgeon replies, I would advise against it. And so I decided to text him back and was like, so what if I already booked the flight? Like, it's already paid for, like, no refunds. Like, what do you think about that? And he looked at me and he said, could be worse. And that's my story of how you can continuously make dumb decisions in your 20s and still be okay. Fast forward to phase 2, which I'm going to pinpoint around 22, 23. And now why I bring 22 and 23 into it is a lot of the times around this age, people graduate from college. I remember after getting my college degree, and at this point, I had been working full-time in film since I was like 17, 18, between working weddings and working film sets. So I just thought I had it all figured out. I mean, I was making great money at this age, at this point. And I said, well, if I can make 6 figures in my 20s now, I'm going to be able to retire in like 5 years. And that's really how I thought it worked. I had already figured out the game plan to all of life. You start to get a little comfortable at this age, and then you graduate from college, and things just like snap into place, which I call the O moment. And no, we're not talking sex and orgasms. Maybe we'll save that for a different podcast episode. But the O as in realization that things are about to change. Now, I have this core memory of when this happened for the very first time. It was graduation week, and our campus threw this week-long event for the seniors of the school. Now, keep in mind, I was a commuter, so oftentimes I really wasn't on campus. In fact, I've never experienced a college party a day in my life. Like, I had friends on campus, I had friends off campus, but I never really, stuck around in the scene. Like, not a part of fraternities, not a part of sororities, really distanced myself from school club culture. Which is fascinating to me, considering the fact that in high school, I was most certainly someone who was very involved. So in college, it was quite strange that I did the 180. On top of dating someone who didn't go to the school, I was just really focused on working and building at what I thought at the time a career for myself, which in some ways is very true. I do think that I did those things, which I would say a lot of people my age didn't do. Most people at age 22, 23 experience the bonding end of life. And I did too, just in different ways. More so with my work peers and I guess the equivalent of networking. Even though I think creatives naturally like to make meaningful relationships as they connect. But I do think the funny part of it all is the feeling of graduating college is quite universal. So when my college campus threw a week-long celebration to have one last hoorah, I think it started to really hit everyone. Oh, this chapter is closing and another chapter is opening, which I never really felt in high school. In high school, it was more of this excitement, anticipating growing older and having fun and making new friends and really getting to the part of life where we think at the time we will reap the rewards of our work. Oh, silly kids. So when you're 22, 23, with all your friends, your peers, your colleagues, some of which you've never talked to before, and you're finally getting a chance to connect with people, talk about your plans, talk about where you'll go post graduation, I think it starts to flip this switch that time, in an essence, is a lot shorter than you think. That's not to say that we're not still young, because I do think there's a line between being young and also recognizing that time is short. I remember during the week-long celebration, we did several different activities, one of which was like learning how to graffiti. And we just graffitied like random walls with our class of motto. And then there was this one night, we were all downtown in Atlanta at Pont City Market playing golf at this like mini, kind of like outdoorsy arcade that they have upstairs. And I think one of the advisors there told us this saying, and it might be misconstruing exactly when it happened because I was partially drunk that night. But they told us that we should all remember this moment and this feeling that we are all sharing, because the truth be told is some of these friendships will end, and some of these people that you've shared a lot of memories with won't be here any longer. Like, this might be the end of your memories of some of these people. And I'm going to be so honest with you. At the time, I looked at that advisor and was like, what are you talking about? You know, like, I have all these people's numbers. Like, I follow them on Instagram. Like, I'm gonna be in touch. It's fine. Like, you're kidding me. Because a part of me still believes that if you do want to stay in touch with someone, you can. Like, yeah, we're all gonna grow old, but finding and making time for people you care about is up to you. You make that decision for yourself. So, if you are someone who is always willing to pour out time for people that you love and care about, you'll find a way to make it happen. Now, I think this is why I say that realization, that oh moment, is something that we all experience when we graduate college. But I think a lot of us don't actually experience it till after. Like, it's not until we start to look back and go, oh, shoot, that advisor was right. Time is short. Like, not only are you getting older, but everyone's doing their own thing. Chasing a dream, chasing a job, chasing a girl, chasing a guy, chasing around their 2-year-old toddlers. And that's just the 20s for you. Some of the people that you used to connect with end up in different stages of their lives. And that's not even including moving and all that sort of jazz. Granted, it's very nice to be able to have like digital connection where you could check up on your friends on Facebook and see what they're up to and comment and reply and give them a FaceTime call. And for some of us at that age, we experience that physically, where someone we know or someone we love gets met with the match of life, the match of time. I remember during this time, near graduation, a friend, a work colleague even, um, of mine passed away. And I've had many deaths in my life impact me. But to experience someone that is your age, who you looked up to, who you started to build a personal bond with, pass, I do think reminds you of how short time really is. And although we are still young, we don't know when that chapter closes itself. Now, I will say moments like that are what make me go into stage 3 of your 20s, which I consider your mid 20s, 25, 26, maybe 27. And it's this feeling of recognition, but not ready for acceptance, where you recognize that just like this, it could all go away. But you're also not willing to let go of the version of yourself, this version of innocence and purity and genuine love and belief. And I think that's why this age is so difficult. It's feeling like you can accept reality, but still not wanting to have it happen. So this is how I feel going into 25 is, yeah, I do feel a sense of urgency that I've always had, maybe not heightened like it has been in the last year or two, but also realizing that I'm still young and capable and that I need to be patient in this part of my life. And this is why this age is so hard. You're at the midpoint of what feels like adolescence. Now, I'm not going to speak too much about it because I have no idea what a frontal lobe even actually is, to be honest. So maybe mine hasn't fully developed. But there's always that saying that 25 is when things start to kick in for you. In fact, it's almost like embedded into society that 25 is your get your shit together moment. Like everything from getting your own health care, covering your own dental, to getting your first big boy job. Like I think there's this expectation that that's all the things that you need to do at 25. And that's intimidating, especially today because throwback to 30, 40 years ago, I think it would be really fair to say that that is not only possible, but expected out of the majority of people. Whereas today, there's so many things that have changed in society post-COVID, where at age 25, more than ever, you are experiencing the widest gap. Now, I don't know if that really makes sense, but let me break it down. At age 25, in 2025, there are people who are working 3 jobs and barely making enough to live. There are people who are still unemployed or just got laid off. There are people who are married with 3 kids and a 4th on the way. And there are people who move halfway across the world to chase their dreams of making money in creative and artistic ways. In what world was that even possible 30, 40 years ago? I think most people around that time probably worked company jobs and didn't even believe that that was a possibility in their lives. So now that that's been opened up to society, and that's not even to get into specifics of the workforce and labor in America today, I do think that makes things like dating and career really, really interesting. Probably more than ever before. I mean, I can't speak for other people, but I'll just say for myself. How do people date at this age? I've gone on dates with people who look at me like, oh my God, you have done so much with your life and there's so much eventfulness and working towards your passion. You're so motivated to fulfill your creative journey. But then I've also gone on dates where people are like, dude, you're seriously a bum. Like, why do you not make $200,000 a year and work in an office? And in my mind, I'm like, I lived that. I didn't like it. That's why we're backpedaling. But that's what I mean, is this is just such an interesting time. I mean, getting older sucks, man. Let's just be real with ourselves, okay? For someone who wanted to experience dad bod 10 years ago, I take back my words. I hope I can have this working on a 6-pack back soon. I would not trade that for anything. Now, I was going to say on a lighter note, but I don't really think this is that much lighter. We have to talk about ageism. One of my cousins started saying this to a lot of the family members who are getting up there in age, specifically the ones who are in their mid to late 20s. They started to use the term unk. Now, as a former Twitch streamer myself, and someone who indulges in a lot of internet wordplay, as I like to call it, where some may be calling it brain rot. Unk, by definition of current Gen Z, Gen Alpha users, are everyone over the age of like 24, 25. And so in my mind, I'm like, since when did we start calling people of that age uncles and aunties? Like, it blows my mind that they're calling people like QT Cinderella, Ludwig, Valky Ray, uncles and aunties. Because in my mind, I'm like, those are my peers. They're around the same age as me. Does that make me an unk? So I really had to dig deep in my memory and start asking myself, did I call people in their early to mid 20s old when I was younger? Because this is the first time in my life where I've experienced other people I know referring to me as the oldest soul in the group. And I know I'm full of wisdom and brain, but can we just call me like the young, cool uncle and not like the one who is borderline hitting their 30s? Because we got like a lot of years left. So yeah, now I know what it's like to feel age discrimination, where you start to feel like you cannot ride the same rides that you rode at Disney World because you are now too tall, too big, and look too old. I guess that means no more amusement parks and water slides for me. I think I've officially hit retirement age for those things. So much for celebrating with those things in mind. I guess I'll have to find new things to enjoy. I feel like I'm experiencing the opposite of what people in their mid-20s feel. I think around here, people start to finally get the most money they've ever had in their entire life. Yeah, they feel like they're getting older and there's not enough time, but they still feel like they've made progress, at least a little bit. Whereas for me, I feel like around here, I've started to backtrack, where I've made the least amount of money that I've ever had in my life, and I'm dating the most that I've ever had, which for anyone out there listening, not recommended. Broke and dating do not go hand in hand. Let me tell you that right now. Just don't do it to yourself. Don't put yourself through it. Just take a step back. I wonder what my life would be in 5 years. In some ways, it's really hard to predict. You know that saying where people always say you overestimate what you can do in 10 or 5 years, but you underestimate what you can do in 3 months, 6 months, a year. And I'm trying to remind myself of those things and not get too wrapped up in trying to have it all figured out. Because to be honest with you, I don't think we ever do figure it out. That the things we're experiencing now we'll always experience in some form, maybe a little bit differently. Hopefully, it comes with a little bit more of a sense of freedom when we're 30 and can reap the rewards of the money that we make so that we can live and do the things that we like and enjoy to do. Having the fruits of your labor will happen over time, as long as you're just being present. So now that I've coped some more, I got to really start thinking out how I want to tackle this weekend. Yes, I could do all the things that I mentioned before, be a little reckless, be a little responsible. But I think the truth of the matter is, I just want to be present in it in whatever way that I feel. If that means working on my craft, if that means enjoying time with family and friends at dinner, I think I just want to remember that I reflected on this moment and recognize, yes, it's just another day, but another day still worth celebrating. So that wraps up the podcast for the day. I think this was a fairly short one. I want to get better about recording longer podcasts, maybe for the next week, and really try to make an effort of talking a little bit longer and sharing a little bit more of my thoughts and I guess my daily, weekly life adventures. But in the meantime, I'm curious, for any of you who share birthdays this month, what are your plans? What do you plan on doing? Do you experience any of these similar feelings that I'm sharing? As always, leave a like, subscribe. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you get your podcasts, or watch the video podcast live on YouTube here on the Life of Sguy channel. Also, if you have any advice, let me know. I do want this to be a space where we all can kind of talk about how we feel, share our journeys with each other as well. So feel free to write things that you're experiencing in the comments, and maybe we'll talk about them on the next one. Anything else? I think that's it. All right, I need a drink, so I'm going to go do that. Anyways, take care. Bye, peeps.